So, to continue our Shikshamana training course and the first talk that I gave, which never got completed, but we're completing in our our BBC talks. So, last time we did, I will be mindful of my precepts and values and will cultivate, here it says clear knowing, but appropriate attention of my thoughts and feelings as well as how I speak and act. Okay, so that's really uh, focusing on what's going on in our mind and then how it is being displayed through our speech and our actions. And the next one really is focusing more on how it's being displayed, okay, externally. So I will take care to act and speak at suitable times and in appropriate ways, abandoning idle talk and disruptive movements. Okay, sounds like shouldn't be too difficult, huh? Well, here we are in a period of silence. And since somebody said this was true confession time, I have to confess I've probably been the least silent person of everybody here. Okay, that's not just because I like to talk, it's because there are things that have to get organized and planned. As much as I would not like to organize and plan them necessarily, they have to be done. Okay, but then I get a little bit carried away sometimes. Okay, because you know how it is. Like once you start talking, it's hard to stop. Yeah, where is the tape? I I need the what is it? The gray tape, the duct tape. Yeah, the duct tape. Okay, so I will take care to speak and act at suitable times and in appropriate ways. Okay, what is a suitable time to say something? That involves a lot uh, of sensitivity to different people and different situations. It's always, well, as ordinary beings, it's always a hit and miss situation. You try and feel, if somebody happens to be open at that moment. And sometimes they seem open, but when you start talking, they aren't. Okay. Uh, so to develop that sensitivity, sometimes it's very good. Instead of just relying on that sensitivity to ask somebody, is this a good time for me to make a comment or give some feedback? Yeah. And maybe they're going to say no, in which case respect it, because you will be much better off not giving the feedback when they don't want it than if you wait and then give it to at a time that they're open. Now, sometimes we may have this feeling that we've got to say it immediately. Otherwise, they're going to keep doing it and everybody else is going to keep doing it, and there's going to be a crisis. Actually, it's our mind that is the crisis. And so we just need to calm down and wait till it's the proper time to give the feedback. At other times, you have to intervene and say something right then and there because it's that if you say something there, they're going to get it. Okay, but again, it involves a lot of sensitivity to the person and to the situation. Yeah. Um, Sometimes, let's say somebody may be upset, and you need to give them, uh, you need to console them about something. Sometimes, rather than console, you just need to listen. And sometimes, rather than either console or listen, you listen a little bit and then you say, cut it out. And they go like that because they're expecting some nice, sweet words, and you say, cut it out. Yeah. But if you're skillful, they really get it at that time. And they see that, oh, that's true. I need to cut it out. Yeah. We had a situation some years ago. One laywoman was our office manager, and her mother died. And of course, when your mother dies, you can be very upset. And she was very upset, and she was crying a lot. Okay. So she was crying a lot. And then one day I saw her crying, and I just went up and I said, "Stop crying," because she had been crying for quite a long time. And it wasn't help at the beginning, some of it releases tension and so on, but after a while it doesn't serve any useful purpose. You're not releasing tension. You're just feeling it's gone from releasing tension to feeling sorry for yourself, you know and so at that point I just said, "Stop crying." She didn't cry after that, and you could see that she didn't have to try not to cry. Yeah. But, it was hit and miss. I mean, and I wasn't sitting there thinking, is this a good time? Is this not a good time to say, should I say this? She might think this, but if I don't say it, then she won't think blah, blah, blah. It wasn't that. It was just right there. That was the feeling, and I said it. Of course, as we all know, very often I have misjudged things, and I say things, and then people respond negatively. But just because somebody responds negatively doesn't mean that it you shouldn't have said it. Yeah. Because sometimes it needs to be said. Somebody's not going to like it. Yeah. But then they'll go away and think. Yeah. So some people you can really trust that if you say something, straightforward to them, you can trust that they're not just going to get angry, but that they're going to go away and think about it. Other people, you're not so sure about that, and it's kind of like they get angry and they stay angry. Yeah. But when it's the flip side, okay, then what we should do, whether people say something that we like or don't like, we should go away and think about it before we get angry or you know, or react with pleasure, either one. Yeah. Sometimes what's necessary is we have to go and think about it. And it may not be pleasant, but that person's right. Yeah. And I think we've all had, I know I've had situations when people have said something quite directly to me. I don't like it, but it's true. I have to own it. Okay. And it's actually winds up being quite helpful. Okay. So, speaking and acting at suitable times and in appropriate ways, you know, that's true also when we want to um, give somebody some positive feedback. Yeah. Do we say it in front of a lot of people or do we say it privately? Again, it's going to depend on the situation. Yeah. With some people, it's better just to do it privately because then they can really take it in. Other people, you know, uh, if you do it publicly, then they feel very happy. Like when the guests leave here, we usually give them a gift and say something nice about them publicly. And I think that's quite fitting, and they're very happy about that. And yeah, and then they know that because we're expressing genuine appreciation, and they're able to receive that in a public situation. If we went, if it was something else where we're just over the top and praising them publicly, they might get embarrassed. That's not appropriate at that time. or maybe it's something that we know they've really been working on, then it's best well, not always, but many times best to say it privately to them, because they may want to have a little bit of discussion about it. Whereas if we say it publicly, then they may feel not so comfortable because, oh, I'm getting praise for this, so now everybody knows I was doing the opposite. Okay. So it's always touch and go, but to really develop some kind of sensitivity to this, and from our side, when we're the object that people are giving feedback or doing things in relationship to uh, you know, to not judge the other person. Well, this isn't the appropriate time. That's not it's slightly different when we're the actor and when we're the recipient. Whenever we're the recipient, yeah, our job is to learn from the situation. Okay, from whatever somebody says or does, what can I learn from it? Okay. When we're the actor, it's to really have a good motivation wanting to benefit somebody. And when, you know, if the other person doesn't like it, to really check our motivation. If we had a good motivation, no use to, or no need to doubt ourselves. Okay. But sometimes we might check our motivation and, oh, yeah, I thought I had a good one, but actually, it wasn't so good. Have you ever discovered that about yourself? In retreat, I think, is a very good time. Yeah, I know for me, like you go through life, oh, I had a good motivation. Then you sit down and retreat, and things come up that you don't feel completely peaceful about. And then you look at and my motivation was actually stinky. Yeah, and I thought it was good at the time, but it wasn't. And then you own it, and then you can fix it. You can learn from it. Okay, and then abandoning idle talk and disruptive movements. Idle talk, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now there is, what defines idle talk? Yeah. It's because we usually think, oh, just chatting about chit-chatting is idle talk. In many situations, it is. Usually it is. But in many situations, chit-chatting is how you initially connect with somebody. And that is very, very important to establish a relationship. Yeah. Okay. Example. Yeah. I knew nothing about Dharma. Yeah. I had volunteered somebody, Thupten Wangmo, for those of you who know her, was organizing back in 1975 a talk in LA, and some people from out of town were coming in for it. And I knew nothing about Dharma, but I said, if somebody wants to stay at our flat, they're welcome. So somebody came to stay at our flat, Vicky, for those of you who know her. Anyway, she wanted Rinpoche and was coming into LAX, and she wanted to greet him at the airport. So I said, "Okay, I'll drive you." So we went to LAX. Rinpoche got off the airport, okay, and said hello, and I said hello. I knew nothing. There was no kata. There was nothing. I didn't know anything. But we started chatting, and guess what we talked about? Dolphins, because he had just come from Hawaii and seen some kind of SeaWorld kind of thing, So that was the level of my mind. How he could initially connect with me was chit-chatting about dolphins. Yeah. But it was very skillful because I met him And he was very nice and pleasant. And I had signed up to go to the retreat that they were having, so I felt very comfortable about that. And then, at the retreat, then I got hit. Yeah, but before it was, you know, okay. So, many times in many situations, you just chit chat about something that is interesting to both people. And sometimes you can slip a little dharma in there without being too obvious. And it's the point is to make a connection that you can then follow up on. Okay. And to try and talk with people um, at the level that they're at. Okay. So there's this thing called, excuse me, I'm not being sexist. Well, maybe a little bit. Mansplaining. Okay. So I guess there's womansplaining, but the term mansplaining came first, I guess, because men are more important. But the mansplaining is when a man tells a woman something she already knows and that she may actually know better than him, but he is assuming he has superior intelligence and superior whatever and is trying to educate her about something. So this happens a lot in working situations. Yeah, it happens in Dharma situations, whatever it is. And it's not limited to men. Women can women-splain too, okay? Uh, so to be careful that we're not doing that, yeah, because people usually react very adversely, yeah, when they feel like they're being looked down on as somebody who doesn't know something when actually they know it quite well. Yeah. Um, I became friendly with one of the women in the early Mind Life conferences, and she was a PhD, and she was one of the presenters um, when they met with His Holiness. And her field was the history of science, and she gave a brilliant talk. Yeah, of course, when they had a follow-up event, and she came. Um, the people who greeted her directed her to the room where the wives of the presenters were. And she had to say, no, I was a presenter. And then they rerouted her. Yeah. But, this kind of thing, and she was telling me it happens all the time. Um, because what does a woman know about science? Yeah. So we should take care, even when we're talking about Dharma or about anything, to to try and talk at a level that does not look like we're being condescending by telling somebody something they already know, and is also doesn't look like we're showing off by talking about something that they don't yet understand. Okay. So again, it's hit and miss, and it really involves sensitivity. And it can also involve asking the person, yeah, kind of, is this, that you'll see me a lot, does this make sense? Does this answer your question? You know, it's good you ask and then you find out, because if they ask a question and you're talking about, their question was about this and you're talking about that, it's good to know to try and actually help them. And then the part about abandoning disruptive movements, okay, stomping around, slamming doors, doing everything very noisily. Um, Case in point, the door to the, uh, yeah. So it's not only me who notices it. Okay, that door is quite noisy. And when you're standing away and you go like this, it makes a lot of noise. Okay. it's not that when you go slowly and close it, it makes no noise. It still makes noise, but not quite as much. Okay. And it indicates that you're trying to be considerate, even though you can't make it totally silent. Okay. So there's, also, and this is something we need to often remind guests about. Um, our plates are very noisy. And, uh, when you're used to eating in restaurants where there's so much noise, you don't notice that when you take a metal fork or spoon and do this along the plate to get all your gravy or whatever, you don't notice how noisy it is because you're used to that. When you come here, you may still not notice it, but other people do. Yeah. And so, to watch how we eat and, whether we make a lot of noise doing that. Uh, so there's all sorts of things like that, If we saw such a beautiful skit when the Colombians were here of how you greet people at airports. So in America, you greet them in one way. In Latin America, you can greet them in a totally different way, and it's totally appropriate. But if you greet them that way in some conservative place, yeah, the people are going to really not think well of it. Okay. So again, sensitivity to different cultures, what's appropriate, um, uh, you know, how you say something, how loud you speak. It's true, Americans tend to be louder. I mean, I've been at many, many airports in many countries, and yeah, you can usually hear Americans when they speak. Okay? But people from New Zealand, kind of, or Australia, some of them talk loudly, but some of them it's just like this. Yeah. So maybe that's the way they talk in those countries. But I also know other people from Australia who talk like Americans, and you can hear them. Okay, so it's really, again, to be sensitive to the situation. Mm. Okay. And all of this is an expression. Yeah. Why do we try and be sensitive to the situation? Not so that other people will like us, but because we're trying to benefit people. And if we do things that are annoying to them, we started off on a wrong foot, and it's difficult to correct after that. I remember another skit we did. I can't remember who was in it. Some of you were, of people arriving at the Abbey. Different skits of how visitors arrive at the Abbey, and the one who came with her 15 suitcases, the other one who came with their dog, the one who, you tried to explain the schedule to and they didn't listen. Yeah. So this thing of, trying to connect in a way that is fitting, and when we talk to people and when we visit other places to act in a suitable way. I don't know if all of you remember, but at the end of the Bhikshuni ordination program and Bhikshu ordination program, they usually do a skit. Yeah, the seniors, the ordaining, not the ordainees, the guides, do a skit of showing how to go visit another temple. Do you remember that? Yeah, it's usually hilarious. Um, I saw some pictures, I think, in your ordination. Yeah, they did that. I remember in my ordination they did too. And it's a hilarious skit, but it reminds you, oh, when I go to somebody else's place, I need to not just go in and do things my way, but, to go in and at what point do you prostrate And who do you prostrate to? And how many times do you bow? And when do you make offerings? And when do you sit down? And all of this kind of stuff is different from one place to the other. So sometimes it's good to ask about it beforehand, you know, or just kind of, again, suss it out when you're there. Yeah. And for us, when new people come here, for us to kind of coach them and let them know how we do things so that they don't feel so self conscious. So it's kind of very practical stuff, but it's amazing how much practical stuff we space out on. Yeah. How many small things we just completely are like out to lunch.